Imagine stepping back 2 millennia into a vibrant city pulsating with life, nestled beneath the benevolent gaze of a mighty mountain. For centuries, its citizens lived, loved, and prospered, utterly oblivious to the silent, simmering fury that lay beneath their feet. But on one fateful day, the very air they breathed turned to ash, and their world, in a terrifying instant, became frozen in time. This is the captivating and heartbreaking story of Pompeii, the Roman city buried alive by the cataclysmic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 A, more than a natural disaster. It's an unparalleled window into the daily lives, secrets, and final moments of an ancient civilization. Prepare to walk the very streets, see the faces, and feel the tragedy of a city perfectly preserved by its own destruction. Nestled on the Bay of Naples, under the seemingly benign gaze of Mount Vesuvius, lay Pompeii, a vibrant and prosperous Roman city. For centuries, its citizens lived a life that, to us, feels both distant and remarkably familiar. Unlike grand imperial capitals like Rome, Pompeii was a thriving mid-sized provincial city, a microcosm of Roman life, perfectly preserved by its tragic end. This unique preservation, afforded by the volcanic ash, grants us an unparalleled window into its daily rhythms, its social intricacies, and the very pulse of Roman existence in 79 A. Pompeii's ash. Prosperity stemmed from its strategic location. Its fertile volcanic soil produced abundant wine and olive oil, key commodities for trade across the Mediterranean. The city's port was a bustling hub where goods from all corners of the Roman Empire flowed in and out. Merchants and traders, from humble shopkeepers to wealthy entrepreneurs, filled the streets, selling everything from local produce like onions and garum to exotic imports from distant lands. Walking through the excavated ruins today, one can still see the remains of bakeries with their mills and ovens, fast food counters known as thermopolia serving hot meals, and bustling workshops for crafts like wool production and pottery. Commercial activity wasn't just confined to the Forum. Shops lined almost every street, identifiable by their wide-open fronts and surviving counter designs. The social structure of Pompeii mirrored that of many Roman towns, a layered society ranging from the extremely wealthy to the enslaved. At the apex were the freeborn citizens, including a local elite of wealthy landowners, merchants, and politicians who resided in magnificent villas adorned with elaborate frescoes, mosaic floors, and lush peristyle gardens. These homes, like the famous House of the Faun, were statements of status, often designed to impress guests with their opulence. Below them were the freedmen, former slaves who had gained their freedom. Many became successful business owners, amassing considerable wealth, though they could not hold political office like the freeborn. At the bottom of the social pyramid were the slaves, estimated to constitute up to 40% of the population, forming the economic backbone of the city, performing everything from domestic duties to hard labor in workshops and farms. Women, regardless of their social class, held no formal political power, but could own property and wield significant social influence, particularly if they were wealthy. Daily life in Pompeii was a sensory experience. The city's public spaces were central to its social fabric. The Forum, the heart of the city, hummed with activity. Legal proceedings, political debates, religious ceremonies, and marketplace transactions. Temples dedicated to Roman gods like Jupiter, Juno, Minerva, and even the Egyptian goddess Isis stood prominently, reflecting the diverse religious beliefs. Crucial to Roman life were the public bathhouses, like the Stabian baths, which served not just for hygiene, but as vital social centers. Here, citizens of all classes would spend hours daily, moving through heated rooms, cold plunges, engaging in exercise, gossiping, playing games, and networking. These were beautifully decorated spaces, reflecting the importance of communal bathing rituals. For entertainment, Pompeians were spoiled for choice. The city boasted an amphitheater, older than Rome's Colosseum, where thrilling gladiatorial combats and wild beast hunts captivated crowds of up to 20,000 spectators, drawing people from surrounding towns. 2 theaters, one large open air, one smaller and roofed, hosted plays, comedies, dramas, and musical performances. Even less formal entertainment, like visiting brothels or simply gathering in Capone for food and wine, was part of the urban fabric. The walls of Pompeii's homes and public buildings were a canvas for its people. Frescoes depicting mythological scenes, everyday life, political messages, and even erotic art offer an incredibly vivid glimpse into their aesthetic tastes and values. Graffiti scrawled on walls, from political endorsements to personal messages and rude jokes, reveals the unfiltered voices of ordinary citizens, making them feel incredibly real and relatable across millennia. Life in Pompeii, then, was vibrant, diverse, and deeply intertwined with its Roman identity. Its citizens, living under the fertile shadow of Vesuvius, believed their world was stable, eternal. They had their routines, their pleasures, their struggles, and their dreams, entirely unaware of the geological clock ticking beneath their feet. The preserved city offers an unparalleled snapshot of a Roman day, inviting us to witness their world just moments before it vanished. For centuries, the people of Pompeii had looked upon Vesuvius as a benign part of their landscape, a fertile mountain that blessed their vineyards and olive groves. They were largely unaware of its true nature. While minor tremors and unusual seismic activity had been noted in the days and weeks leading up to the disaster, perhaps even dismissed as common quakes, there was no understanding of the imminent cataclysm brewing deep within the earth. On the morning of August 24th, 79 AD, a seemingly ordinary day, the volcano gave no overt sign of the unimaginable fury it was about to unleash. Then, around 1 p.m., the world of Pompeii was shattered. Without warning, a colossal, terrifying explosion ripped through the cone of Vesuvius. A towering column of ash pumice and gas, the Plinian eruption, shot miles into the sky, forming a dark, ominous cloud that resembled a gigantic pine tree, as famously described by Pliny the Younger, an eyewitness to the event from across the bay. This initial phase was marked by a rain of pumice stones and ash that began to fall on Pompeii. Initially, it was a nuisance, a gritty dust that accumulated on roofs and streets. People were confused, perhaps frightened, but not yet desperate. Many tried to sweep it away. Others sought shelter indoors, believing the storm would pass. As the hours passed, the situation rapidly deteriorated. The ashfall intensified, turning day into an unnatural, suffocating twilight. The weight of the accumulating pumice and ash began to crush roofs, causing widespread collapses. Buildings crumbled, trapping people inside. Panic began to set in. Those who tried to flee faced immense obstacles. The air was thick with choking dust. Visibility dropped to near zero, and the accumulating debris on the streets made movement agonizingly slow and difficult. The ground trembled violently from continuous seismic activity, adding to the terror. Families became separated in the chaos, cries for help lost in the roar of the volcano. For those who remained or were simply trapped, the immediate horror was suffocating. The air became toxic, filled with sulfurous gases and fine volcanic ash that clogged lungs and brought excruciating breathing difficulties. Many victims died from asphyxiation as the ash solidified around them, preserving their final, agonizing postures. The heat, though not yet extreme enough to vaporize bodies, was immense, causing severe burns and further panic. It was a slow, agonizing death for some, a desperate struggle against an invisible, omnipresent enemy. Then came the true, devastating killer, the pyroclastic flows. Around midnight, after several hours of relentless ashfall, the volcanic column began to collapse. Superheated waves of gas, ash, and volcanic debris, moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour, and reaching temperatures of several hundred degrees Celsius, surged down the slopes of Vesuvius. These flows were inescapable. The first few flows reached Herculaneum, a coastal town closer to the volcano, instantly vaporizing its inhabitants. For Pompeii, slightly further away, the pyroclastic flows arrived in terrifying succession, early on the morning of August 25th. The first flow, less dense, swept through the city, instantly killing anyone still alive on the surface. Within moments, skin blistered, muscles contracted, and internal organs boiled, leaving little time for suffering. Subsequent, denser flows then buried the city entirely, entombing everything, buildings, objects, and the bodies of its victims under layers of compact ash and pumice. It was these flows that perfectly preserved the city, creating molds of the human bodies, animals, and even plants, capturing their final horrific moments with chilling clarity. By the end of that fateful morning, Pompeii was gone, vanished beneath a thick blanket of volcanic material. What had been a vibrant, living city was now a silent tomb, a testament to the raw, untamed power of nature. It was a tragedy of immense scale, wiping an entire community from the face of the earth in a matter of hours. But the very force that destroyed it would also become its preserver, holding its secrets intact for nearly 1,700 years, waiting for the world to rediscover its forgotten whispers. For nearly 17 centuries, Pompeii lay entombed, a ghost city forgotten beneath a blanket of volcanic debris. The violent eruption of 79 had not only destroyed it, but had also erased it from contemporary maps and memory. Over time, new layers of vegetation and soil accumulated, transforming the site into seemingly innocuous farmland. The very top of the buried city was so deep that its existence faded from active recollection, becoming nothing more than local folklore about a lost ancient settlement. The world moved on. Empires rose and fell, and the Roman Empire itself became a distant memory, unaware of the perfectly preserved time capsule waiting beneath the earth. The first accidental hints of Pompeii's existence resurfaced in the late 16th century. During the construction of an underground water channel for Count Sarno, led by the architect Domenico Fontana, workers stumbled upon ancient walls adorned with frescoes, inscriptions, and various artifacts. However, Fontana, focused on his engineering task, misidentified the site as part of a villa belonging to the Roman statesman Cicero. The findings, while intriguing, were not fully pursued, and the site once again receded into obscurity for another century and a half. The true rediscovery, marking the dawn of modern archaeology at Pompeii, began in 1748 under the patronage of the Bourbon monarchy, particularly King Charles VII, encouraged by his wife, Queen Maria Amalia. Excavations began, but initially these were more akin to treasure hunts than scientific endeavors. The early diggers, often convicts and slaves, were instructed primarily to find valuable artifacts, statues, precious metals, and exquisite artwork to adorn royal palaces and museums. There was little interest in preserving the context of the finds or the integrity of the buildings themselves. Tunnels were dug haphazardly, walls were often destroyed to extract frescoes, and any less valuable artifacts or everyday objects were discarded or left to decay once exposed to air. This destructive approach led to the irreversible loss of invaluable historical information. One prominent figure in these early, often chaotic, excavations was Roque Joaquin de Alcubierre, a military engineer who viewed the site simply as a quarry for treasure. His methods were brutal and unsystematic, often prioritizing speed over preservation. Despite the controversies surrounding him, his initial efforts did bring attention to the site, leading to a continuous, albeit problematic, series of digs. It wasn't until the arrival of Giuseppe Fiorelli in 1863 that the excavations at Pompeii transitioned into a truly systematic and scientific archaeological endeavor. Fiorelli was a revolutionary figure, horrified by the haphazard destruction of previous efforts. He implemented meticulous methodologies that transformed the site into a model for future archaeology. He divided Pompeii into 9 regiones, further subdivided into insula, and assigned a unique number to each doorway, allowing for precise mapping and recording of every find in its original context. He also introduced the concept of documenting all findings, not just the valuable ones, understanding that everyday objects could tell a rich story of ancient life. Fiorelli's most profound and poignant innovation was the development of the plaster cast technique. He observed that the human bodies buried by the eruption had decomposed over centuries, leaving voids within the hardened ash layers. By carefully pouring liquid plaster into these voids, he could create perfect, haunting replicas of the victims in their final moments, frozen in postures of agony, fear, or sleep. These casts, depicting everything from a dog chained in a courtyard to families huddled together, offered an incredibly visceral and human connection to the tragedy, making the ancient disaster profoundly real to the modern world. What Pompeii revealed was an unparalleled window into Roman daily life, unlike any other archaeological site. Unlike Rome itself, which has been continuously built upon, Pompeii's sudden burial preserved everything from grand temples to humble bakeries, from intricate frescoes to everyday graffiti. We can walk its cobblestone streets, see the grooves left by chariot wheels, enter its villas and insulae, sit in its theaters, and explore its public baths and brothels. The detailed preservation allows us to understand Roman urban planning, plumbing systems, social stratification, commerce, art, and entertainment in vivid detail. Inscriptions and graffiti reveal political slogans, personal messages, lovers' laments, and even shopping lists, giving voice to ordinary citizens. However, the rediscovery also brought new challenges. Exposure to air, light, and humidity began the slow process of decay for the once preserved organic materials and delicate frescoes. The sheer scale of the site and the constant influx of millions of tourists each year put immense pressure on its preservation. Modern archaeologists and conservators now face the ongoing task of protecting what remains, using advanced techniques to restore and maintain the fragile ruins for future generations. The enduring legacy of Pompeii is immense. It fundamentally changed the course of archaeology, demonstrating the power of systematic excavation. It profoundly impacted art and literature, inspiring countless works. Most importantly, it transformed our understanding of the Roman world, moving beyond the grand narratives of emperors and battles to reveal the intimate, everyday lives of ordinary people. Pompeii stands today not just as a ruin, but as a poignant monument to a lost civilization, a frozen tableau that reminds us of human fragility, the awesome power of nature, and the timeless echoes of a vibrant world that was, in an instant, utterly silenced.